It is 3:15, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I know we've got a kind of a quick changeover from the last program where we were on the other side of the farm and hiked up the hill really quickly. So we're going to get started. Yes, I got my steps in today, y'all. So today we are going to, we've got Jody Thompson here. No. I am so sorry. Let me switch pages. Like I said, we did a quick run up the hill and I didn't switch pages. I apologize. Okay.
Anna. Hey. I'm Anna.
Fantastic. So then instead of messing it up and even more, I'm going to let her go ahead and talk.
All right, let me figure out which mic works first. Hello? You got me? Okay. Hi. My name's Anna, and thank you for coming. You'll see this title, Obstacles and Achievements, sounded really good at lunchtime one day. Like, we just threw it out there. It was kind of some alliteration and sounded good. I think I should have titled it What to Do and Not to Do in flower farming. We're going to go on, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about us. I'm Anna. My husband Aaron is up here. Some of you know him as Ern. We have farmed together now we're going into our 10th season, but that first season was pretty hilarious and serendipitous. Back up a little bit. Aaron's background is in geography. He gained valuable farming experience in North Carolina, where he worked at a handful of small farms and worked at Goldsboro, in NC State, in Goldsboro there. We met when his farming habit brought him to the University of Kentucky research farm in 2013, so it was 10 years ago. Anyway, my background is in art and in nursing, so obviously I went into farming. I spent 12 years as a critical care nurse at the University of Kentucky. I've learned about farming from groups like this, from watching my peers, from working with my husband. I think that's it. Where we started, we are called Bellaire Blooms. We started in Lexington on Bellaire Avenue. And so had I known that we'd actually be successful, I might have chosen a different name. It's okay. There is actually another Bellaire Blooms in Michigan that we were made aware of through one of our floral organizations. I don't think they're mad about it. So our journey with flower farming began in 2013, and Aaron was working at the UK South Farm, and there was this graduate student who had extra flower plants, and they made their way home to our house, and we planted flowers in the front yard, and that same graduate student gave us a reference book that we still have. And we were accidentally shipped 400 tulip and daffodil bulbs that we were able to keep. It was, I don't know, it felt like the stars aligned, and I was supposed to quit my job as a nurse and be a flower farmer. Let's see, and then 2014, we tore up the side yard. Aaron built this little PVC dream, and we started all these plants and had drip irrigation on all these beds in the side yard and the front yard, and that drip irrigation was fed by rain barrels. Let's see. Fast forward a few months, and that's the front yard of Bellaire Blooms. Doesn't look like that anymore. That's okay. Let's see. So we started this little PVC dream in the backyard that had all the transplants that we had created, and we really started too many plants. And we made a contact with a professor at UK, John Wilhoit, and his wife, Sue Churchill. And we ended up, long story short, farming at Thistles Inn Farm in Woodford County. And we were there for about almost 6 years, where we had a long-term lease agreement. It worked out really well for us. I wish that all beginning farmers had such the opportunity, but they're few and far between. Let's see. We remote farmed for a season before we moved out to that property. We had a successful bouquet CSA. We joined a farmer's market. Yeah, we had good success. I will move on. Fast forward a few years, and we kind of realized our dream and bought 6.5 acres in Wadi, which if you don't know Wadi, there's not much to know. Let's see. In the fall and winter of 2020, we purchased about 7 acres of land and moved to Wadi. We continued to harvest off the old farm that was about 45 minutes away while constructing and moving infrastructure on the new farm. And there was a pandemic as well. Our daughter, Ruby, was born about 2 weeks after we moved into the new farm. My head is still spinning. The maternity leave wasn't what I would call restful. That is us standing in front of our 2 newly constructed high tunnels on where we are now, the new farm. The current farm, I should say, and I think I was 5 days postpartum, and shit was nuts. Okay, now I'm gonna start like a do and don't list for flower farming. Don't put your fingers in the pruners. Seriously, you're gonna be holding onto pruners or snips or cutting tools or whatever you wanna call it. It's gonna be on your person like 80% of the time. Unless you're like us, then you're just always looking for them. This was literally our first rule as a joke, but also your fingertips are important. We went through lots of Band-Aids, but it's really important to maintain clean, sharp cutting tools to make harvest go quicker, be more efficient, and really get those flowers cut in the short window of time that you have, because flowers don't like to be cut when it's hot out. So you have 10,000 plants to harvest from and 2 hours to do it. Let's see. My favorite pruner brands are Baco and Felco. These behind me. Ooh. Hold on. Those guys. Those are Felco. They're plastic. No? Oh, man. I'm wrong. Those are called Burnell, and they're plastic, they're lightweight, and as far as I know, they come in one size, which is good for small hands. The Baco pruners, should have consulted you more. The Baco pruners are metal and heavier, but they do come in different sizes for different size hands. We purchase probably a few pairs of pruners every season, but find your favorites, stick with them. They're important. Let's see. Okay, everybody wants to be a flower farmer right now. It's a popular trend, it's beautiful, but it's not without the hard work. So I'm gonna say, first and foremost, don't go into it blindly and think that it's easier than other farming. So what you see here are a few of my favorite books. On the left is Lynn Basinski's The Flower Farmer. I think the price for this book on Amazon has doubled recently. I still reference it. I read it the first year that we started farming. It's great. It's for the organic flower farmer. It has a list of cut flower suggestions. It has pest management methods. It interviews lots of different successful flower farmers. It's just a great reference. The middle book is by Lisa Mason Ziegler. She, she also has something called the Farmer's Garden. The Gardener's Workshop Farm. It's a series of classes you can find online. So whenever someone wants all my knowledge, I tell them to go for that first book on the left initially. Cool Flowers is more specific to fall planted flowers and biennials. On the right is a rather in-depth reference book that we use all the time. Alexis gave us that book. And like, all my favorite flowers were already marked, so that was really nice. Not every single flower you're gonna find in these references, but it's pretty extensive and very helpful. Other places to go look for information about flower farming. Extension agents are putting more education out there for flower farmers. The ASCFG, which is the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Farmers, is an excellent source of decades of knowledge. It is not inexpensive to join, but we did it year one, and I don't regret any of that money spent. You can buy a lifetime membership. It is like $2,500, but you can get literally get on the website and find answers to anything. So yeah, don't go in blindly. I think people make a lot of assumptions about flower farming because of the way it looks, but it is farming. Should I take questions at the end or in the middle? Okay, keep going. All right, do have a business plan. This was our business plan. Can you all see it? It was not a great one. Let's see what we can do. And we still have not written a business plan. Don't do that. We went and met with K-Card, and they were very helpful. And they said, come back to us with a business plan. And we sat on a picnic table and wrote on a piece of yellow paper, and I think had an argument in the middle of it. And I don't think we ever finished it. But I don't think that's a good thing to do. Excuse me. A little about those pictures. On the left, that's a harvest of Bupleurum, zinnias, sunflowers, snapdragons, some ornamental amaranth. That's about it there. On the right is our first workspace in the back of an old livestock farm on the farm where we leased land for several years. I did wedding bouquets in that barn in the middle of the night for some reason. On that white building there, that's our cooler. And I'll talk more about that as we go on, about the importance of cold storage. Our cooler is now in its third location. So if you're gonna build one, make it movable. All right, do you have a seeding/planting plan? Let's see. A lot of people are real handy at Excel. I am not. I have a spiral-bound notebook and a pencil. My brain doesn't work like Excel. Some days I wish it did. I when seeding, I record variety name, date sown, quantity sown, and method sown, and then the seed vendor. And we've been using that method since 2014, and it works for us. Find what method works for you. There's a lot of information on making seed plans out there that I don't have, so go look for more. I refer back to the same date in old notebooks and tweak seeding dates based on previous year's performance and the current forecast. So as far as what to seed, we'll get into that. Seed catalogs are really pretty, and I will buy a seed based on what it looks like in the catalog. And I think like Baker Creek sold a whole lot of stock seeds this fall with their catalog cover. Let's see. So in 2015, we really expanded on the land in Woodford County where we once leased and did not have a seed plan. I did not know what I was seeding. I was just seeding all the pretty things. And I think we had like annuals right next to perennials and plants that needed support right next to plants that did not need support, and it was a nightmare to cultivate that garden. I'm surprised that we had the success that we did, but I'm glad what we did. Yeah, that's Aaron on the right. Yeah, he's okay. Thank you for your patience. Oh, on the left are some snapdragons that I've open sown on a flat. We kind of like to germinate them this way and then pick them out and then put them into a cell tray. And then we don't lose space with cells in the greenhouse that don't germinate. It is an extra step. It's kind of meditative work, though. All right, some information on varieties and what's an appropriate cut flower for what you are looking for to use it for. So as I said before, flower farming has expanded exponentially in the last decade just because there's more of a demand for local flowers. I'm glad for that. But the seed companies that are out there, they're putting more cut flowers in the catalogs. But you have to think about, is it appropriate for a production garden? Many catalogs have very helpful information there. Like, I'm always looking at Johnny's website to look at like the germination temp and the seed planting depth and the germination days and the days to cut and that kind of thing. But you got to think about, well, they're doing this for seed. I'm going to do it for stems. So Johnny says you plant something 9 by 9, we'll plant it 6 by 6, just because we want a longer stem. What else? Excuse me. My favorite seed company has no pictures at all in their catalog, which is maddening because you're doing a lot of Googling, but seeds are cheaper. Geo seed. GEO. In that same vein, you have to take that information that these companies give you, excuse me, ignore that. All right, so the picture here, this is a poppy. I don't remember the name of the poppy. I think that was 2015. And I found it, and it was gorgeous when I was going through the rows looking at the flowers. But it's all the way open. So is that a good cut flower variety for me to take to market, to put in a bouquet, and have the customer expect it to last 5 days or more? It is not. I could cut that flower, singe the ends of the stem, because that's what some poppy varieties require to have any sort of vase life at all. Not all of them. And then that flower could be used in a bridal bouquet that day, and then it might make it through tomorrow. So when you see those pretty pictures in the catalogs, you gotta know, is this a workhorse? Is this Aaron's dianthus? Aaron wants to grow 100% dianthus. I hope you know that's a joke and we'll never do that. But there you go. We'll go through some other varieties as well as we go through, keep going through slides. This is like 90% pictures. I hope that's okay. Okay, here are some others that we grow, but should we grow them? On the left is, well, some of us don't like to harvest it. On the left is a vine. It's called Mina lobata, or exotic love vine. It's gorgeous. It has this cascading rainbow of color at the end of the fall. But as far as a production farm, you're not going to want to take the time to harvest a vine. It's really challenging, and it's just going to take a long time to fill one bucket with flowers from a vine. In the middle is one of my favorite flowers ever as of, today, because it changes. This is the Gloriosa lily, and I've grown this for several years, but I think I've only cut it twice for arrangements. It grows up a vine, and then the flower is inverted as it blooms, and it's just magical. But just remember, these are things that you shouldn't grow for production. On the right is a craspadia, or billy ball. It's native to Australia. We have perennialized it here in 6B. It's really cute. It dries well. But also, it's one of those things about, do you want to spend 30 minutes cutting one bucket of craspadia when you have all these other flowers ready for harvest, and they're going to make you more money in the long run? Okay. Other flowers to consider, cosmos on the left. We've recently come back to them. They add a nice airiness to your bouquet. They're simple to harvest. You can cut them tall. They're very striking when you cut them tall. They survive Kentucky summers. They come in lots of different colors, not just that bubblegum pink. The middle flower is a special kind of zinnia called a cupcake zinnia. And yes, we grow lots of zinnias. They're not difficult to grow, but Johnny's or whoever is wanting to sell you this new zinnia because it looks different. But when you, in fact, grow it, you learn that only, 20% of the flowers look like that. So it's like, oh, why am I growing this variety when this variety over here is consistent and stable, and I can get the same kind of product off it every time? Upper right corner, there's some liatris. That can be, I think that's a Kentucky native. We haven't grown it in a few years, but you can grow it from seed, you can grow it from corn. I'm not sure why I added that picture. Oh, the Euphorbia marginata, which is the variegated leaf in that bucket with the liatris and the Rudbeckia there. The Euphorbia, seed catalogs are marketing it as a nice foliage to go with your cut flowers. But if you ever work with it, you realize that it spits out a ton of sap, and it's gonna burn you, and it has. And it's like, again, do you want to spend 15 minutes when you should be harvesting washing your hands of the sticky sap? And then you're gonna rub it in your eye anyway. In that lower picture on the right, there's that's pearl millet. We got that from the feed store in a 50-pound bag. There's marigolds, butterfly bush, zinnias, gomphrena. That's all I can see in the picture. Ooh. In that same vein, when you're looking through your catalogs or you're looking on social media, it's hard to not want to grow something just because someone else is growing it. And it's really pretty, and you're like, oh, I want that pretty thing. There's a lot, even if you're in the same growing zone, there's a lot of other factors that are gonna take place. Excuse me. This is the first presentation I've ever given. Thanks. So don't grow it just because someone else is growing it and you really want to and it's pretty. We've been in a microclimate on the Kentucky River, growing there for 6 years, and we could grow stuff there that we shouldn't have been able to grow. And you can put that on social media. That's another talk, though. I'll go on. Some other really good cuts. Gladiolus, on the left, you can buy bulbs cheaply, and you can buy all sorts of pretty flowers, or pretty varieties, and then you can dig out the bulb again and plant it elsewhere, or you can perennialize it right there. They're an easy cut. It is just what we call a one and done. You're not going to come back to that plant and harvest off of it again. It's just the one flower. In the middle there is Nigella, or Love in a Mist. Probably one of my favorite today. You can direct seed it. You can transplant it. It also comes in a blue, and people are wild about blue flowers as well as white flowers. I should not fail to mention the seed pod for Nigella. It is outstanding. It is gorgeous. You can you miss the harvest window on the Nigella, let it go to seed, because you're going to be equally impressed with the seed pod. On the right, that's Gomphrena, Globe Amaranth. Also a good dried flower. Comes in lots of pretty colors. Very drought tolerant. Doesn't require 100% some sort of horizontal support, but it's good if you put horizontal support on it, and I will talk more about that too. Okay. Sunflowers, we seed them every week to 10 days to have a flush regularly through the season. This variety is called Vincent's Choice. Some varieties, in particular that one, will want to be direct sown. And this is, we learned that just by doing. I don't think it says that in the catalog. And you're gonna have little nuances about everything that you grow that you're gonna learn every year, and that information is not gonna be in the catalog. Talk to your friends. In the middle, that is yarrow. It can be a perennial if you treat it right. This one is called Summer Pastels, I believe. My florist buyers love it. Our crop from last year is coming back, so we'll see what it does. On the right is feverfew. It's cousin to chamomile. It doesn't smell good like that, though. It can also be treated, or it can also be a perennial if treated right, so we'll see what happens. this year. Okay. On the left there, those are snapdragons. I'm suddenly forgetting all the names of all my favorite flowers. We grow snapdragons out the wazoo. We do 3+ successions. I didn't even count how many snapdragons we've put in so far this year, but it's a lot. Snapdragons come in types that are specific for bloom time. We grow them for an early spring bloom and a early summer bloom. In this area, in this region, you can have a fall blooming snapdragon. I have not figured that out yet, but they are programmable for that use. I should interject here, when you see a bed of snapdragons, our tunnels are 30 by 96, so our beds are about 90 feet long, and these snapdragons are placed every 6 inches. It's really intense, dense, maybe that's the right word. In the middle, that is a variety of Celosia spicata. Excuse me. This one's called flamingo feather. Also a great dried flower. This one in particular is super cool because as it ages on the plant, it turns pink, goes from white to pink. It's also this blush color that florists love for their weddings and events. And yeah, those are considerations you got to take into account when you're growing flowers. Very different from tomatoes. Scabiosa on the right can be started from seed. This one in particular is a variety that they've tissue cultured. We get as plants. We tried to perennialize it in our high tunnel, but that Arctic blast craziness over Christmas took it out. I have in my notes that it's copyright protected, but that is not the right wording. It is not a written thing as a plant. But just a good cut flower. All right. It's a lot of remotes. All right. This is my favorite cut flower for today. I think everyone should grow it. We have grown it inside and outside the high tunnel. I should mention that I could go back and tell you what we grow inside and outside, and I will, if you'd like me to do that. This is bellflower. Campanula Champion 2 series is highly bred for cut flowers. We space it in a 4-foot bed. We have 7 plants across the row. It's very tightly spaced, and for that reason, it gets super tall. It will last 3 weeks in the vase if you harvest it at the right time. Cool. Thank you. I gotta get moving faster. All right. Do invest in the fancy flowers. And when I say fancy flowers, I'm talking about the ones that you're buying the bulbs or the corms, and you're not necessarily starting from seed, and they're gonna cost more up front, but you're gonna see a difference on your bottom line. These are ranunculus. That was our first ever bucket of ranunculus in 2018. There are some ranunculus on the left in the middle, and an anemone on the right. Yes, like a sea anemone. Anemones are in front of you on the tables if you're up here. More ranunculus and anemones. They come in so many colors. They Let me go back once and look at my notes. Nope, I don't have any. So anemones and ranunculus, we grow them in the high tunnel. They show up at a time of year when we don't have flowers in early March. Well, right this year it's January and we have flowers, so that's a new thing. But that being said, we grow 90% of our ranunculus under plastic or under cover in a high tunnel or a caterpillar tunnel. Let's see. Last year we added a 4th round of ranunculus outside to see what would happen, and it worked, and they all bloomed on Mother's Day, and it was magical. So this year we tripled the number that we put outside. All right, I can't leave tulips out. Yes? No, that was, we planted it about 3 weeks ago. If you have the right kind of corms, yeah. Your outside planted stuff is going to be shorter, but it will bloom, yep. Yep, get them in, yep. I would, yep. Tulips. Tulips fill a gap for us when not much else is blooming. They can also be dry stored in the cooler, which means you pull them bulb and all, put them in a crate, wrap them partially in cellophane, and stick them in the cooler till Mother's Day when you can charge a premium. So just like anemones and ranunculus, they get the consumer out and hungry for flowers when there are no other flowers. That being said, with the tulips, we don't make a lot of money off them just because they are expensive to start with, and then the labor, you're digging the tulips, and they're not perennial. We treat them as annual, and I can answer questions about that later if there are any. So yeah, they fill a gap, but we don't make much from them. Okay. Do invest in infrastructure for season extension, like high tunnel or caterpillar tunnel. I mean, how many people here already have a high tunnel or a caterpillar tunnel, or so you know why they're so great? I can't speak enough about the importance of what high tunnel growing has done for our business. We get a better quality product. Flowers are finicky, and they have to be perfect if you want to sell them. So something that's not going to tolerate wind and rain, put it in a high tunnel, and you'll be impressed. Let's see, we've been tunnel growing since 2018 when we received our first NRCS grant. Let's see. So those of you that might not know, if you're going in a tunnel, you can control when the water comes in or the fertigation or whatever you're putting through your drip line. You're keeping deer out. Mostly, if you roll the sides down at night. And close the doors. It also allows for concentrated growing in a small area, facilitates earlier planting because the soil is warmer and drier. Let's keep going. High tunnel growing, that is Aaron and his dianthus on the left. In the center picture, that is later in the summer, that's Nigella, that was high tunnel grown. And then on the right, that's ranunculus. Consider your tunnel placement. We've built a lot of tunnels. Let me look up my notes, excuse me. So the first tunnel we had, we built it ourselves. And that was good. Hold on. And we built it from a kit. It's from a horticultural supply place. In the middle there is what we call the wee tunnel. And we built it just from tubing from Lowe's and a pipe ender. on the right, those are our newest tunnels at our current farm, and we had those put up by professionals because there was a brand new baby and a lot of things to do. Okay, don't build your tunnel with the broadside facing the wind. That ended up good, don't feel sorry for us. So don't try to do it all, and what I mean by that is don't tackle too many sales outlets in the beginning. There are so many sales outlets. Our first few years, we tried to balance a bouquet CSA, events like weddings, on-demand floral design and delivery, wholesale orders at groceries, and sometimes even 3 markets a weekend. That's too much, and if you're trying to do it all, you're not going to be great at any of it. So when we started saying no to some of those things, we streamlined our focus and had less stress, more happiness. Let's see. Find a sales outlet that fits your lifestyle, and that's gonna be difficult, but there's also people do workshops, but it doesn't mean that you have to do all those things. Do what works best for you. We are 80% direct-to-customer sales at farmers markets, and it really works for us right now. These are things we don't do anymore, and I'm pretty happy about that because it's just less stress. Wedding design, dry flower crafts, and then the random market that isn't a regular farmer's market, like on the street fair kind of thing. Do you invest in cold storage? I'm sure many of you are familiar with a CoolBot and an air conditioning unit and the magic that happens there. The middle picture is our current cooler in its second location. So let's see, I can't stress the importance of this item enough. Cold storage is the most important factor in post-harvest handling for cut stems. Flowers and veggies should not be combined. That is a big thing that I almost left out, but did thanks to Alexis. So veggies in the ethylene, flowers don't like ethylene, and you're gonna see a decrease in your flower life if you combine flowers and veggies in the cooler in the same space. So cold storage is gonna help the quality of your product. Stems like to be conditioned like overnight after you harvest them. You're harvesting in the morning, you're gonna put the flowers in the cooler, and then the next day you can make bouquets out of them, or that evening. Thank you. So stems need to rest. There are exceptions for this cooler rule, like ornamental basil varieties, don't put it in the cooler. I don't put my zinnias in the cooler, they don't do well. Echinacea, don't put that in the cooler. I'm sure there's more I'm leaving out. Those of you that want to combine flowers with your veggie program that you already have going on your farm, maybe these would be varieties that would work well for you if you don't want to put them in the cooler with your veggies. Right now, our cooler is a temporary germination chamber, and it's working really well. Let's see. Don't forget to test your soil. This is an easy one, but we just kind of missed it one time last year. And we had a high pH, and we've amended the soil, and we're getting better. But it's free, and you do it at your local extension office. The composted horse manure that some of you probably also have access to. Let's see. Excuse me. Here it is. This was a problem, and this is one of the reasons our soil pH is too high. So we're taking measures. In the future, we hope to put more time and energy into making our own quality soil amendments. But right now, corralling a toddler is taking a lot of time. Okay, one thing that I think is completely unique to flower farming are the horizontal support systems that are used. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not seen this in veggies. So cut flowers are mostly planted closely together to encourage longer stem growth. For this reason, a majority of plants need some kind of horizontals to support, to keep them upright and keep their heads out of the sand. Many people use a plastic trellis netting called Horton Nova, stretched over the bed and held above the ground by a series of posts that run alongside the perimeter of the bed. Alexis gave me this picture that's on the right, and you can see the Horton Nova netting. It's just really thin plastic netting. It will tangle if you look at it the wrong way. I try to stay away from it, but sometimes you have to use it. And it's hard to reuse, so we try to stay away from it for that reason as well. So alternatives to the Horton Nova, we use something called remesh, or concrete reinforcement panel. And we learned about this at a conference in 2015, and it's kind of like, I think it's really paid for itself. Remesh comes in a 200-foot roll. Is that right? Over 100. And we cut it into 10 to 12-foot sections, get it at the local feed store, and it's metal mesh. It comes already rusty and gross looking. And we bend it so that it sits, the sides sit, and straddle the bed. And it fits over the bed, and you can pick it up and move it if you need to cultivate and put it back down. What else? You can stack them so that you have multiple layers. And I'm sorry, I do not have a great picture, but right there, can you see that in the Horton Nova? Not the Horton Nova, but the metal cages, or the remesh. Oh, my bad. It's right there. So those are Lysianthus. It's a metal cage. And if it's sitting out on the ground by itself, you won't see it, and you'll walk right into it. 10 minutes. Okay. Next. Don't move and have a baby at the same time during a pandemic. This is like a series of pictures that makes me laugh every time. Yeah, farming is hard enough. Okay. Do you cultivate relationships with other flower growers? Flower growing is weird and oddly specific, and your competition is not your neighbor or your peer down the road that's also growing flowers. Your competition is being sold at the wholesaler, and it's being shipped in from other continents, and it doesn't look as good as your stuff. And it's covered in chemicals. So these are all ladies that I'm friends with via flowers. On the left is Michelle from Riverbend Farms in Scottsville, and on the right are all my ladies from the Central Kentucky area. Do you invest in perennials? This may be a no-brainer for some people, but when you farm on leased land for a long time, it's hard to put those plants in the ground when you know you can't take them with you if and when you leave. Those are peonies, columbine, asclepias, and that's beautyberry. More peonies and echinops. All right, do create a brand recognition with a custom logo. You'll thank yourself. You'll have people that know you because of that little thing. We slap our sticker on every bouquet that leaves the market. Turner Labels out of Lexington prints our stickers for us and has done a really good job for almost 10 years. Don't forget the foliage. This is something we weren't good at initially, but I think we're getting a little better. On the left is Dusty Miller. It's a Canada Cans variety, and we had it perennialized to our high tunnel for a while. We got eucalyptus, and then on the right is Mahogany Splendor hibiscus, which is a non-flowering hibiscus that we have in the fall. Do you hire help? We've come across some really talented people, and they've been amazing, and you can't do it all yourself. So most of us did not get into farming or flower farming to be someone else's boss, but it really pays to invest in good help. Each of these ladies here has their own farm-related business that is thriving. And then we have full-time employee this year. She's been great. She's paid for herself twice over with her knowledge. Don't forget to incorporate some pest management. I don't know if dogs count for IPM, and I'm gonna say they do. So get a dog and then get another dog. We've used a lot of ladybugs in the past for aphids within the high tunnels on our early spring crops. Most recently, we've been using lacewing eggs. They come in these fun little paper hang tags that you just stick on the plant, and we've seen great results in the spring and the fall with pest management with lacewing eggs. We're hoping to get some kitties. We were shorted some kitties Friday. Yeah, the Humane Society forgot to hold on to some kitties for us, so we're a little bit sad about that. Absolutely. We have a series of step-in posts and electric fence that's not really electric, but they think it is. And so every time we plant something, we also put a fence around it because our dogs are huge and can destroy. Do start your own seed. In flower farming, there's a lot of people out there that want to sell you the plugs. They want to sell you the plants. But I think that starting the seed is a good skill to have, and the cost is a lot less than investing in the plant. So why I put this picture up there, that is the peony root, but behind it you'll see our germination table in our prop house, and we've got we've gotten, what am I trying to say? We've gotten away with not having a heated prop house for a long time. We put heat mats on the table, put this tray on the heat mat, and then we have what we call like a little tunnel within a tunnel, and put plastic sheet over that table with those supports. And then we usually have pretty good germination. Grow some veggies while you're out there with your flowers. You're gonna get hungry. All right, oh my gosh. Here's my notes. Even if I deep fry them or dip them in ranch, it'll make you feel good. All right. One very important piece I can't leave out. Don't forget your buckets. If you don't have the buckets, you don't have anything to harvest into. There's even been a bucket shortage in the past couple of years. It's hard to keep track of buckets. If you buy nice buckets, you can slap all the stickers on there that you want, but you're gonna lose buckets. Buckets are just kind of like an overhead cost. These are free Kroger buckets that they use once and toss out. One thing about cleanliness, your buckets must be clean. Bacteria in the water in the bucket is going to clog those stems and make that flower die faster, because once you've cut that stem, it is dying and you need to protect it. Don't forget to rest and continue to tell yourself it's only flowers. That is my motto. After 12 years of trauma and critical care nursing, I've realized that there are no flower emergencies. There are only perceived flower emergencies, and we must rest. There was going to be like a longer mental health piece with this presentation, but I just didn't get it. Some things that also to consider that I didn't get into this list. Do cover crop, it's important. Your soil is the most important thing. Add animals to your lineup. We've had chickens clear a few perennial beds for us lately. It's been really nice. Cultivate relationships with wholesale buyers. That took a long time for us to do because I was just too scared to walk into a florist. Take lots of pictures. It helps you document what you're doing. It helps with your spatial memory. And lastly, thank you for your patience.
I think we've got about 2 minutes if anybody wants to answer questions. But I have to say, I think you did a great job. And for you to say that this is your first time, you did fantastic.
Thanks.
So, okay.
You mentioned at one point singeing the stems of poppies. Can you explain that a little bit more? And are there any other flowers that need that for a better vase life?
There's so many different treatments for different kinds of flowers, and you're going to learn about them as you go. But yeah, poppies, you're just going to like run them over a lighter. Like Icelandic poppies, you don't have to do those for, but with those Oriental poppies, Alexis, just run them through a lighter for a second, and that's going to help them hold their vase life.
I was just going to ask real quick, if I was going to do a little you pick for customers, a you cut, I guess, mm-hmm. What would you recommend for like 5 or 6 varieties to kind of throw out there for people to cut themselves?
What time of year?
For summer.
Zinnias, sunflowers, marigolds.
Just the main ones, yeah.
Celosia.
Okay.
Gumfarina? Yep.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a reference book in the beginning that was given to you. Is that the Armitage book, or was it a different book?
That is it.
Okay.
The Armitage book. I think there's new versions of it now.
You mentioned a couple of things that you said perennialize with proper care. Mm-hmm. Yarrow was one of them. I was curious about that and others that you've managed to perennialize, and if you could talk a little more about that.
Yarrow, it has been pretty hardy. Feverfew. Oh, I don't. Yeah. Yeah. It looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we weed a lot. Maybe we'll get down to a place where we have less weed pressure, but there's a lot of weeding that goes along with, and because it's an established crop, you can't really get in there with a scuffle hoe and do it quickly. You're on your hands and knees with your hoary pulling stuff out. Yeah.
Can you tell me what the ideal temp your cooler storage?
What, 37, 38? Yep. Yep. Yep, 30. We buy a lot of AC units, like 3 or 4, yeah.
When do you put your first?
The first succession of snapdragons went in they went in the tunnel
this current one,
November.
Play around with it. We might have some Valentine's Day snapdragons.
No, she said when do we put them in?
Oh yeah, plants.
November. What I can tell you is like when we seeded them.
Yeah, we're doing chantillies and.
We're not doing chantillies.
What's the other herb? It's and we do mountain butterflies.
Yeah.
Yeah, October, November, and then.
December.
Of the same varieties we are in, every 3 weeks. And then that'll singe bloom season. But, we want flowers as early as possible.
No, we still have some that need to go in, but
Yeah, but we have to seed our field in December.
yeah, we have.
Variety.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. We have aphids. No, I've treated a lot of, let's see, anemones, ranunculus, and mums with green lacewings for the aphids. Dusty Miller in particular hasn't caused problems with us as far as insects. There has been a problem with voles. That's what the kitties were for that we didn't get.
So do you leave your ranunculus and your anemones in the high tunnel, or do you dig them?
There you are. Okay. So that's a good question because this year, last spring, I left the anemones in. We always dig the ranunculus out, but I left the anemones in, and that's why we have blooms right now. We overplanted it in the summer with celosia, so we're very careful to pull those celosia plants or just cut the celosia plant off at the base when we were getting rid of that. So yeah, right now we have blooms because I left anemones in the ground. Are you going to try that with your ranunculus? No, disease. Yeah.
So do you store your ranunculus?
I have. I get a less hardy corm coming back the next year, but it has worked. And I'll probably continue to do that. I think that I've noticed this year, like some of the corms that weren't trimmed up as good and cleaned didn't sprout as good. So I think I see where that falls short. So we'll see about next year. Do you have tips on getting them apart? Like I found that. You gotta let them dry. Yeah, and you kind of have to not be afraid to break it. Yeah.
I think we are out of time.
Okay.
So
Thank
I
you all.
apologize. But thank you so much.